this and that, but think about it. He's one of the only politicians that never lied during his campaign. He ran on hope and change. Now we have little hope and all this change that we don't know what to do with.
There you go. I have someone who actually wants to talk about what's going on here. Bobby, calling all the way from L.A., Los Angeles. So we got about a minute, brother. You must be listening on the app. What's up?
I do. Now, listen, you may not know this, but I'm actually the greatest caller in the history of talk radio, so I'll try my best in the less than a minute we have here. I'm curious about something. If you don't mind me asking, are you registered Republican?
Sure.
Okay, I'm curious. Just here's my point. If Bush and the Republican Party gives billions of dollars over the years to Pakistan and are friendly with Saudi Arabia, and of course had the Iraq War, what right do people on the right have to criticize the left for the war on terror?
Well, I guess you would have to be, you switched around here. I guess you would have to be consistent and criticize both of them.
But you're still registered Republican, so is that consistent?
Yeah, see, because I'm about taking the Republican Party back, you know.
Why?
Why?
Let you down, let them go.
Why? Because it's one or the other, Bobby. Let me put you on hold. See if he'll hang over, because, he may actually be the greatest call in the history of talk radio. We'll find out on the other side of the break. Doc Washburn Show continues. Thankful that Bobby in L.A., calling all the way from Los Angeles, California, has been patient enough to hold on through the break. Bobby, the self-proclaimed world's best talk show caller, if I understand correctly, the point you were trying to make, and I want to give you plenty of time to elaborate on this, is that it's hypocritical for a person registered to a party that the last president, who really did a lot of bad things, was a part of the same party. Hypocritical for such a person like me to criticize the current president.
Well, first of all, thank you for giving me time. That's really nice. Not all conservative hosts do this.
Sure.
And secondly, you got it partly right. It was hypocrisy, but it's not just the presidency. Republicans had the House, they had the Senate, they had the presidency. They spent money like crazy. They built up the government like crazy.
Yep.
They supported Bush when he gave billions to Pakistan, when he was friendly with Saudi Arabia, and when he did the Iraq War. And I'm painting a broad brush. This is not everyone. This is in general.
Well, most of them. I understand. I understand it's in general. Yeah.
So when they do this, and then hear people on the right, the same people are criticizing the left for the war on terror and spending and things like that. You understand the hypocrisy, the contradiction?
Well, yeah, unless you criticized Bush, too.
Okay, but if you criticize Bush and the Republicans, I'm assuming you criticize Republicans, too, you're still registered with the same party.
Yeah. True, because I want to take over this party. I want the conservatives to take over. I read Ronald Reagan's presidential diaries, all 8 years of it, daily diary, and he was having to fight the establishment, the leadership of his own party in Congress over something as simple as trying to lower taxes. So there's always been this fight between the conservatives and the establishment, and it's very much going on in D.C. It's going on here in Arkansas.
Okay, so can I ask you?
Go ahead. Sure.
How about this? If the Republican Party is supporting Bush twice, Mitt Romney, John McCain, and I don't have anything particularly against each one, but they're not the most conservative people.
Not at all.
They're doing non-conservative things.
Right.
And you keep supporting that same party and then criticizing the left. What is that?
Oh, I don't give a dime to the Republican Party.
But you're registered. I still don't understand why you're registered. Why do you stay supporting Republicans? Why do you want that party back? Wait, how about this? At what point do you say to yourself, you know what? They're not conservative. Enough's enough. I'm not going to support them anymore.
Yeah, no, that is a good question. The question is, what is the alternative?
Be independent.
Okay, well, look, for over 150 years now, the Congress and the presidency is either Republican or Democrat. What am I going to accomplish by going independent?
Okay, that's a good question. Now, you guys had someone in your own party who, even though he was registered Republican, he was pretty different. And a lot of you guys, I don't know about you personally, didn't support him.
Yeah.
You know Dr. Ron Paul was running with your party, right?
Sure.
Okay, and many of your own colleagues didn't support him. They didn't.
Right.
So think about this. If Dr. Ron Paul was the most consistent conservative, if you can at least acknowledge that much, and he wanted to bring down government, bring down spending, and all that stuff, and they didn't vote for him, what more do you need, man? He was the most consistent conservative, was he not?
As far as domestic policy, I thought he was fantastic. Foreign policy, I don't think he had any idea what he's talking about. I think he was just as blind to the religious impetus for the jihadists to want to attack American interests as George W. Bush and Condoleezza Rice were.
Okay, so you support Bush, who went to the Iraq War. You don't support Ron Paul, who was against the Iraq War. What do you want then? What do you want?
No. I criticize Bush over and over again. As a matter of fact, when Paul Sperry in the New York Post came out with the fact that the 28 pages of the original 9/11 congressional report showing that the Saudis were behind 9/11 and Bush redacted that out, right. That's an act of war as far as I'm concerned. And you got bipartisan congressmen in Congress. You got Stephen Lynch in Massachusetts. You got Walter Jones in North Carolina saying this needs to be unredacted. It needs to be investigated. If Bush's fingerprints are on that, I mean that's worse than anything you brought up about Bush. And I just I just linked to that on my Facebook page again. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You had some caller calling in earlier who was just before me, I think, or something like that. He was criticizing Obama, for, I guess, not fighting the war on terror, not going after ISIS and things like that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're criticizing Bush for the way he fought the war on terror. Do you want Obama to go back and send troops back to Iraq and go back to the area and do all that stuff?
No, I mean, I would rather him fund the Kurds. There are a lot of things that he could do without putting active duty military on the ground over there. Okay,
so you do want funding. Okay, and then you were against, what was the reason you were not for when Ron Paul was saying, let's get out of there, not fight there? What was the reason for that?
Hold on just a second, and I will address that. We have to do traffic and weather together on the sixes every 10 minutes. We'll continue with the self-proclaimed world's best talk radio caller, Bobby, calling all the way from Los Angeles. Coming up next on the Doc Washburn Show, you got it, News Radio 102.9 KARN. All right, one of the most interesting conversations I've had in quite a while, which is why we have carried Bobby, the self-proclaimed best talk show caller in the world, from Los Angeles, California, over to a third segment. Bobby, you were asking me right before we had to run to the traffic and weather what my problem was, what my issue was with Ron Paul when it came to his foreign policy.
Just real quick, that was part of it, and whatever you tell me the reasons are, and I'll listen to what you have to say.
Sure.
Whatever reasons you give, you can find worse reasons with other candidates. So in other words, if you can't even like Dr. Ron Paul, who can you like in the Conservative Party?
Well, again, I domestic policy, I thought it was fantastic, and of course, Ted Cruz is a big Ron Paul fan too. Here's what happened to me.
Okay.
I was on the air September 11th, 2001, when our nation was attacked. Later that day, I was told by the people that owned the little radio station I worked at in Panama City, Florida, the next morning we're going to have local Muslim physicians come on the program and explain Islam's religion of peace, calm everybody down. This has nothing to do with us. I'm like, okay, I didn't know anything about Islam. Well, fine, whatever. So they come on, and one of the doctors says, Doc, the hijackers, they're terrorists, they're fanatics, they go straight to hell. Such a thing is not allowed in Islam. You can't kill innocent people. I'm like, cool, great, okay. And without skipping a beat, he says, and furthermore, they have absolutely no support in the Muslim world. And I'm like, wait. Dr. Mubarak, I've already seen the video of people dancing the street, the Palestinians handing out candy to the kids. He's like, oh, no. Right. And that's when I got real skeptical and really started looking into the motivations of Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, Zarqawi, all these people. I wound up interviewing Andy McCarthy. Now, McCarthy was the lead prosecutor in the prosecution of the blind sheikh, the guy who tried to take down the World Trade Center in 1993. And he wrote a book called Willful Blindness when Bush was still president, about the willful blindness on the part of the leaders of this country when the Republicans were still in charge. And he said, as an Irish Catholic kid out of the Bronx, he said, I guess I just figured these are some fringe lunatics trying to pervert this great religion of peace. He said, for several months, I had to read hundreds of pages of documents to prepare for this trial, and I came to the startling conclusion they really weren't taking anything out of context. They weren't twisting anything. He said, on 3 separate occasions, I had peaceful, moderate American Muslims in the witness stand, 3 separate occasions in this trial back in the 90s, way before 9/11, asked each one of them, could you please explain to me the Islamic concept of jihad? Each of the 3 said, I'm not really all that religious myself. You need to ask an expert like that guy over there, pointing to the guy who was on trial. And he said that horrified him.
May I just ask real quickly,
sure.
Do you think Islam, the religion of Islam, is a false religion?
Of course. Well, see, I'm a Christian, so what I did know about Islam is there's no way it can be true and the Bible be true because they contradict each other so thoroughly. The Allah of the Quran, very little resemblance to the God of the Bible. So anyway, come back to Ron Paul. I'm sorry, I've gone all the way around the barn here to get back to the point. Ron Paul, regardless of what I might think is fantastic about auditing the Fed, going back to the gold standard, all this great stuff domestically, when he wants to just say, well, we got to take Osama bin Laden at his word, and no wonder they're mad at us because we're in their countries, and if we only hadn't taken out Mossadegh in 1953 in Iran, they wouldn't be mad at us. He's ignoring the religious thing, just like Condoleezza Rice, just like George W. Bush.
Now, you were ignoring a few things here, and I have some questions. I wonder if you'll give me an honest answer here.
Sure.
First of all, one of his points was, we're broke and we don't have the money for these wars. His other point was, when you're fighting these wars on terror and you're pissing them off and they're going to keep fighting us back, is it working? People are dying. People are suffering. We're fighting them over and over and over. How much more blood and treasure do you want to give? And his next point is, historically, whenever you intervene and try to set up puppet governments and do these kind of things, doesn't it backfire?
Yep.
What is the answer to these 3 things?
It sure does.
So then how can you disagree with them?
And again, I disagree that he says it's our fault that they're angry with us. Now, one of the things Ted Cruz has pointed out is nation building is a fool's errand. You try to avoid armed conflict as much as possible, but if you have to do it, you go in with overwhelming force, and then you get out. You don't stay for 15 years trying to build a nation. Hold that thought. Hang on just a second. Unprecedented. A caller gets a 4th segment. Traffic and weather together on the 6s every 10 minutes on the Doc Washburn Show. You got it. News Radio 1029 KARN. All right, we go back to self-proclaimed world's best talk show caller, Bobby, calling all the way in from Los Angeles, California. And we got about 3.5 minutes, brother. Go ahead.
Okay, so I want to know, let's go step by step.
Sure.
Do we have enough money to keep fighting these wars? Are we bankrupt or not?
We're bankrupt. We don't have enough money to do anything.
Okay, so you agree with Ron Paul on that part. Okay, let's go to the second point. When it comes to historically intervening and fighting with countries and putting up puppet government, is that usually a good thing or a bad thing in general?
That's usually a bad thing in general.
Okay, so you agree with Ron Paul on that point. So from what you're telling me, you pretty much agree with everything Ron Paul domestically and nationally, except for the fact that he thinks it's our fault. Everything else goes out the window because you claim that's what he thinks. Am I understanding correctly?
Well, there's a little bit more to it than that. He refuses to consider the possibility that these people are religiously motivated no matter what we do. There have been over 27,000 jihad attacks worldwide since September 11th, 2001. They attack people all over the globe,
and you think he doesn't know, Doc, you think he doesn't know that Islamic terrorists are out there and want to attack us? Come on.
I think he refuses to admit. See, the fact that mass murderers sometimes lie. They'll say one thing in English, and then they'll say another thing in Arabic to get more followers, reminding people, the Holy Quran says...
So do you think Ron Paul, he does not know Islamic terrorists are out there and want to attack us?
Yeah, of course he knows that, but he thinks it's our fault. He doesn't think it's because they're following the example of Muhammad, who was also a warlord who attacked and killed all kinds of innocent people.
Okay, so if he just would have come out and by the way, I don't know if this is true what you're saying, but let's assume you're right, and he does not want to admit it publicly.
Yeah.
If that's basically the one thing from what you're telling me, that was the one issue. If he would have come out and said, you know what, I know there's Islamic terrorists and they want to attack us, then you would have voted for Ron Paul. That's all.
No. He knows they want to attack us. He just says it's our fault. That's why Giuliani got so upset with him in that debate back in 2008, because it's not our fault. They want to attack us because it's all part of where they're coming from religiously. They attack people all over the world who have nothing to do with America or Israel. We got about 1 minute. Go ahead.
When do you say try Ron Paul's way?
Ron Paul's way, unfortunately, goes back to the same willful blindness that Condoleezza Rice and George W. Bush had. That's all I'm saying. Defending the borders is a great idea, and we could do a whole nother hour on that, because obviously Bush didn't want to do that any more than Obama does. Brother, I'm out of time, but this has been great, and I hope you call again sometime.
Well, before we go, thank you for taking my call. And on the last note, let me say the Dodgers and Lakers rule.
All right, God bless you, Bobby. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you very much. We can have civil conversations with people we disagree with. You know that. See you tomorrow, too, God willing.
Arkansas's news.